Alright, so before we dive deep into anything, spoiler alert for Attack on Titan. I'm going to be going season by season, so if you're in the middle of consuming content for the series and just doing a little side research, I am going to be stating when I'm moving on to the next season so you can back out accordingly. I have a kind of interesting history with this series. As I've mentioned in some of my other anime videos, I didn't really get into anime until college, but Attack on Titan was actually one of the few that I was aware of before that point, mainly because I knew some people in high school who were into the series. One of which was strangely sort of obsessed with the Colossal Titan in particular. I don't know if it was intentional or not, because this person would joke around and sort of have a smirk on their face. And I just remember some of the strange shit that came from their mouth was said without that smirk. I just remember when this person collided with the other fan of the series, though, because the other fan was a very good debater and presenter, I guess you can say. And I just remember they took a very deep breath and just laid into the other person for like 5 or 10 minutes straight about, just general issues with the person, as well as how bad this other person was making fans of the series or anime in general seem. Fast forward to college, and I was watching some anime with the people I would hang out with around that time. I remember we made it through the training arc, and I think even the beginning of like the first major battle. And I remember I had to have watched the abridged with them because I normally don't watch that on my own. I think that's the right abridged for like a fan parody dub. But I do also remember watching the actual, episodes and that. I don't remember if that was with them or if I did it on my own out of curiosity. But I never made it past that point. And then fast forward to a few months ago, I'm a little late here, but I saw some people talking about the series finale for the anime, and I don't know, I felt left out considering I did have a general familiarity and general interest in this series that just kind of got lost amongst other things, so I decided to buckle down and watch it all the way through. I don't have much to say about the first season. It was solid. I think it was something that continued to get better for a while, even into season 2. And I don't know, I don't feel like I have anything really constructive to say that probably hasn't already been said. So, spoiler alert now for season 2. I liked the first half-ish of it, but then I started to get mixed feelings about in the middle about some of the directions they took with certain aspects. Like the big one right away is when Reina and Bertold just outright unveiled who they were, just casually, and I don't know, I just felt like that was very anticlimactic, especially with how much they were building up the armor and Colossal Titan as sort of the first two abnormal titans we were introduced to and having a major part in Aaron's backstory. I think they deserve better than that. Like, I like the way they handled, the female titan where she was outsmarted, or the Jaw titan where she was cornered and had no choice. Like, it felt like there was build up and a sense of accomplishment of, seeing their unveils, where here it just felt like it came out of nowhere. Even if they as little as just had one of them say who they were at that point, have that one individual capture Aaron, and then when they're trying to get him back, they can have the other person unveil themselves, so that it's a little split up, and maybe you can at least have the second unveil have a little more build up. Like, you can sort of be under the impression that it was someone on the outside who was going to arrive to the battle, as opposed to someone within the squad changing in the middle of it and switching sides. And maybe you can, have the other Titan sort of in danger, sort of leading to that. once again having your back against the wall. I mean, I don't know, those are just some ideas. I'm not an expert by any means for this stuff, but that just didn't sit right with me. I will say I was surprised it was them. I thought that Erwin was going to wind up being the Colossal Titan. Although I guess when it comes to predictions, I was happy that I was able to predict. Not that it was a really hard prediction, but as soon as I saw Hannes offer Aaron's group some food and have a little bit of a heart-to-heart with them, I'm like, oh, he's so dead by the end of the season. I guess it's nice seeing yourself become fluent enough to see some things like that coming, I guess. This is something I'm going to dive into more later because it's a bit of a double-edged sword, but on the positive end of things, I did like seeing some side characters sort of take on bigger roles than expected. Like, you had your main trio. I'd seen Levi in like a lot of promotional material in that. And besides them and maybe Jean as like a rival character and Sasha as a comic relief, I wasn't, expecting some of the other members of the squad or just some other characters in the world in general, take on major roles at different points. I think that was cool. One thing I'll admit, and I don't know if I missed something or misinterpreted something, but I am kind of confused by the ending, particularly with this Ymir. There's another one later. But I just really don't get why she sort of left and went on to her death, basically. I mean, her and Historia went through extreme lengths at the end to sort of remain together. And I get that, she may have thought In the Walls is the best place for Historia, and she may not want to be part of that, considering now that people know she's a Titan, she might sort of be subject to some of the similar things Aaron's been through with the group and society. But I don't really get why she was willing to help Bertold and Ren at all. Like I said, sort of walking into her death. I mean, I guess she is older, right? I think she's actually 77. So maybe she was just ready to die. I don't know. I'm kind of surprised she didn't even, try to do something in between. Maybe just, leave everyone and try to find a way to sort of help Historia from the outside and eventually reconnect once more things play out, because they seemed at that time to even just be like a lot of gears turning and things changing. I don't know, just my take. It was overall just another thing that didn't sit with me well. Now we're moving on to season 3, so once again, spoiler alert. I don't feel like I have as much to say about season 3. There are still a few things to address, though. One thing that I felt kind of mixed up with is that I felt like we started season 3 again with Eren and Historia being kidnapped. It's like we just finished rescuing them. Like, I don't know, it felt a little weird to essentially be in like a cycle there, I guess. But maybe that's just me. I will say I did like the little bit of a tone change, you can maybe say, because you got like a government coup and the cast starting to fight other humans, so actually for a while it felt like the Titans were almost taking a back seat. I can kind of see how that might rub people the wrong way considering the series that this is, but I was okay with it. I thought it was a little refreshing almost. Another thing I did like was the character development of Historia. Like, I don't know. I thought they were sort of setting her up to be a sad, tragic death or something, but they made some moves with her that I wasn't expecting, and she was probably one of my favorite characters in the anime. One final thing is that I don't really like how at this point we start seeing humans also have supernatural abilities outside of Titan form, particularly the Ackermans and the Rices. Final spoiler alert for the final season, so everything's on the table now. But to continue what I was saying before is that at this point we are also introduced to Eren having a supernatural ability to see the future. And what was up with Grisha when he saw into the future? I mean, granted, he could have, just had his mind manipulated to forget everything after so he would play his role, or he could have thought about it more and thought that the outcome was worth it. But it's never really addressed, and he seemed pretty horrified and distressed about what he saw. So I wonder why he, in particular, didn't try to change it. Like, they kind of explain it with Aaron, but with him, it's kind of like, why not find someone else to inherit the founding titan and work with after that? I don't know. Sure. I don't know. It's like I liked the titan supernatural abilities and some of the different things that the abnormals can do, but when you sort of went outside of raw strength for battles, like I kind of lost interest in that, and it just didn't sit well. To circle back on that double-edged sword, once again, I liked seeing characters who I didn't think would turn out to be that major take on big roles, but then I feel like there's kind of a line of it feeling too artificial almost, like everyone is super important to the world around them, and there's just a lot of big conveniences. And it's like, okay, maybe, one or two, but I don't know, it almost takes you out of it because it's like, what other bullshit are they going to come up with to sort of explain different plot points and that? I feel like one of the big ones right away from the previous season was when Historia killed Rod. I mean, yeah, she did it in spectacular fashion in that, but I mean, is it really realistic at all? Because he was blown up into a million different parts for, out of all people, his daughter, who was looking to do that to sort of make a statement before taking the throne, is the one to find the heart and kill him that she needed to. Like, I don't know, to me that would have made sense to have, I don't know, someone else spot it, maybe from the main squad, and be like, hey, Historia, over here. Like, that was the first point where I was really scratching my head. But even some other things too, like with Historia again, I mean, it wasn't explained, and I guess it makes sense because she had, forget if it was an aunt or cousin or whatever she was kind of close with, who was aware that she liked the person from her book named Krista, which is the name she would take when she went into hiding, but it was sort of just given to her, and it just seemed really convenient, but I guess you can kind of make an assumption, but I don't know, maybe it could have been fit in somewhere, a flashback. It's like, hey, if we're going to have her go into hiding, she might appreciate this name from her relative who she got along with. But yeah, in this season, of course, Sasha's family are the ones who stumble upon the duo that's responsible for Sasha's death. And it's like, they explained the Titans, why there were so many of them who all joined the army or whatever it was called, and were in, closely affiliated squads because you had some of the Titans working together and trying to find Aaron. But then on top of that, you have two members of royal families. You have the Titan who stole the ability of one of the other members of the Titan group, who could have been anywhere. Mikasa in general just seems like a lot of convenience, with her being, once again, one of those royal family people, and then also having the unique abilities of the Ackerman family and the tie to Aaron. Like, there's just a lot of conveniences. Maybe it's just me looking too deep into things, but I don't know. In my opinion, this season in particular was a little harder to get into right away, just because, I mean, I don't know, it's a time skip. I'm looking forward to seeing, some of the characters, what they've been up to in the meantime. But you sort of start off with the new cast, and you have a lot of focus on them. The only character we really see from the other part is Rhina. That almost doesn't sit right, because I just feel like he should have died a couple times in the previous season. So for him to be, sort of the first familiar face I don't know, I guess it makes sense with what they were going for, but it just didn't mesh well with me. And yikes, Gabi, I would probably describe her as a very lucky pest towards a lot of the main cast. I mean, I think she's really lucky considering her actions and general statements made that even if she was a kid, that more people weren't after her head and there wasn't, more of a resistance to trying to keep her alive. I did like her character development, but she just seemed really lucky, I guess, to a certain degree, of where other characters' morals were at. And of course, too, when you're leading up to the rumbling and you think you want Zeke and Eren to unite, and the person who just almost prevented that, you see the shot, you see it out of frame, and right away I'm like, it's Gabi, isn't it? Besides that, Annie's return was pretty cool. I like when series sort of, have something come back that, took a bit of a side role for a while, but become major again, so that was cool. I am surprised more people didn't die, especially at the end, especially considering early on in the series. I wouldn't say major characters, but characters who seemed like they could have a decent role and were decently big for the time were dropping like flies. And then at the end, with once again the convenience that, everyone's a Titan now, but the Ackermans are immune, and Levi's physically fucked up, so of course Mikasa had to be the one to kill Eren. And I liked Mikasa as a character in that. I felt the world was built around her role almost. Like if they didn't do that and you had everyone charging and eventually it was like, hey Mikasa, you're the only one really quick enough to pass here, so we can stay here and live, or we could go with you and potentially die, trying to take that burden away from you. I don't know what exact scenario, but I don't know, some test of agility, or maybe several people are just out of the compressed air or whatever that they need for their gear to work. Like, I don't know, I just feel like it would have been better to even, still set up Mikasa to be the one to have to kill Eren, but a little less chosen one vibes, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. I guess thinking about it, that is kind of interesting, because didn't Kenny have the one canister to turn into a Titan? Or needle or whatever? Because if Ackermans were immune, were they aware of that at that time? I don't remember how that all went down, but just something that popped in my head real quick. But besides that, I mean, it was a solid series. There's several things, and I feel like more than usual with certain series I get into, that sort of left me wishing they took a different approach or something with it. But overall, if you can look past those things, it's still a fun watch. There's definitely a lot of, stuff I didn't really talk about much here that it does good. So, oh yeah, and I'm looking at it now too. I see Armin right there when they're about to make him the Colossal Titan. Of course, conveniently, that's when I forget the guy's name, but he stumbles on and has Erwin with him on the brink of death. Another convenient thing. Maybe there's more I'm forgetting about, but I think I hit the major points.